Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to question and answer session. Please remember our house rules. Address in your questions or comments, please address the themes and subject matters that have been raised in the communique. Come up this way, tell us your name, your organization, and one question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. My name is Matthias Okwe of the Guardian newspapers. Mr. Governor, thank you again for the quick action you took in the case of Skybank and Polaris Bank. You just raised a concern here about NPLs. Can you tell us what is the present situation? Because I believe that it must be very big for you to raise it at the committee. We'd like to know if there are still other issues with other banks. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Governor, I just want to add an addendum to what he's saying about Skybank, because a lot of people are worried that why didn't the CBN and the NDIC leave Skybank to be the way it was, and not just giving it a sexy name, Polaris Bank, and allow it in the hands of the same management, the same staff, and pumping 786 billion for them. They are pointing out the fact that it's just like you coming up with a very good paint and pouring on the same car that the same drivers that you are retaining have mismanaged. So I don't know exactly, do you think that was the decision to take in that score? Then on the issue of the MTN, sir, can you give us an update as to what is the status of that transaction, sir? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Governor. My name is Sonia Adejokun of the Nigerian Tribune. So instead of Skybank, there are insinuations that as at Sunday, the bank has not been registered, the Polaris Bank. Is that correct?
This MPC is not about Skybank, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Mr. Governor, good afternoon, sir. My name is Mark Isibor from Leadership Newspapers. I want to ask, beyond asking the federal government to intensify effort in implementation of the 2018 budget, is MPC actually concerned that by now we don't have a single naira released to the implementation of 2018?
Okay, the last question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Elisha Blago. I work for Bloomberg. My question relates to the MTN situation. This morning, Standard Bank did issue a statement that the central bank is reviewing some of the submissions and asked it not to pay, it will no longer pay more than the $2.63 billion that was initially mentioned. My question is, why does the central bank seem to be softening its stance now on its initial stance, especially given the way the announcement was made a couple of weeks ago? And secondly, are you able to respond to criticism that the way the central bank handled the issue was a little bit dampening for investor confidence?
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor. My name is Gabriel Kuma. I report for ITV, Abuja. I want to know, based on the CRR framework that you released last MPC, how quickly are you going to start drawing down on the CRR-backed lending? Because some banks are complaining.
Yes, I think that's the last question. What a free day we have. Well, let's hear the governor. He will provide all the answers, I assure you.
Well, thank you very much. I think I'd just like to start from the first. So let me choose the order I want to answer the questions in order of easy, least resistance. On the CRR issue, you recall that we only unveiled the framework just about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And I do know that the banks themselves will, first of all, go out marketing their clients, come back and begin to make presentations to their credit committees, and then reading the guidelines thoroughly as to what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. The bank should just be about sending their requests. Yeah, we have received a few requests, but I think it's important for me to reiterate the reason for this. The essence for putting that framework in place is to see what the monetary policy authorities can do to support government's effort in stimulating growth in the country, particularly in the agricultural, manufacturing, and other very important sectors of the economy. And we are very, very optimistic that this would work. And the kind of signals we've received so far are very encouraging, and we're optimistic that very soon the effects will begin to permeate the system. Matthias Okwe talked about the quick action on Sky and Polaris, the NPLs, what is the present position with other banks. Let me again repeat that the strategic health of the Nigerian banking industry remains sound. And I would put it by saying that in every chain, right, there will always be strong points and weak points in a chain. And what we would love to see is to continue to ensure that that chain remains strong in all aspects of it. But notwithstanding that, as we see areas where there are weaknesses, we'll do everything possible to make sure that we keep the chain link together. And that's what we're doing as much as possible. And I've said that I would love to see a situation where banks are not liquidated, that we have to think outside the box to see to how we can ensure that we have more banks in the country rather than have less number of banks in the country. And that is what we're doing. But of course, the situation with Skybank, like you all know, is that as at 2 years ago, when the news broke, the bank has slided into negative capital as a result of non-performing loans. At that time, we compelled the entire board and the executive management to resign, and they left. At that point, before we conducted the forensic audit, the whole was about 370 billion. After the forensic audit, it came to the level that it is right now, and which is almost about, I would say, close to about 800 billion. And what we decided to do is to say that having established the whole at this level, and that if taxpayers' monies will be invested in this company or in this bank, in this case though as a loan, that there is a need to let shareholders know, particularly, and I repeat, particularly, those we consider to be prominent and important shareholders, that they've lost their investments. We'll try, just like we have done in the case of, say, depositors, to make sure that the small investors remain protected under some arrangement, but notwithstanding that fact, their holdings will be substantially whittled down. So that's what, but we're trying to say that, and it goes to the issue of why did you give it a sexy name and instead of leaving it as the name that it was before. The name had to be changed for legal reasons. Haven't gotten to a point where the Central Bank of Nigeria and government has invested close to 800 billion in this bank. At some point, it must be seen to be owned by the CBN until we find investors that can pay a fair value, a fair price for this enterprise. That is the reason, that is the compelling reason the name had to change. Okay, insinuations that the company wasn't registered is false. It was first of all registered as a limited liability company a few weeks ago and was registered as a bank on Friday, right? On Friday, a day before we took that action. I've seen some of the documentation that people were banding around because they went on the internet to check whether a company is registered. It's important for us to know that servers may not be indeed be updated. If that server that they are looking at is not updated, it does not mean that this bank was not incorporated. And I think we should just ignore those kind of sentiments and let's focus on the real issues, which have to do with that. We are embarking on a journey to keep a bank alive, to protect depositors' monies, and also ensure that we don't throw over 5,000 staff of that bank into the labor market. Now on MTN, they said update on the transaction, and I will combine that with Standard Bank advising the central bank. First of all, it's important for us to know that is it fine or penalty now? We call it the 8.1 billion is dollar equivalent of MTN's naira generated from their profit. So I would neither call it a fine or a penalty. What central bank sought by asking MTN to return their money is that we want a reversal of that transaction because it was not finally authorized by the Central Bank of Nigeria. That was what we sought to do. And because those funds moved through these 4 banks, the quantum of dollar that passed through the banks was what we said the banks needed to remit back, or the company needed to remit back to CBN through the banks. It did not mean that these were the bank's obligation. And we understand that there was some interpretation in some quarters that aside from the naira penalty, that there was some understanding or some conclusions that those dollars attributed to have been remitted by this bank on behalf of this company were indeed the liabilities of the banks. And that is the reason we provided the clarification to the bank when they called us that that liability is indeed that of MTN and not theirs, and that Central Bank was not in any position or in any way going to debit the banks for the dollar because it was not and is not meant to be their liability. Now, but in terms of update, it's important to know that, I repeat, this was an investigation that started over 2 years ago. There were a number of issues. About 2 of the issues we decided to allow a dispensation to say let it go. But on this last one we thought no, that the amount was large and that there was a need for us to subject this to further investigation and discussions. Yes, and to give, and I feel vindicated that in the history of the banking industry that at least I gave a chance where the regulator, the governor sitting in a meeting, deputy governor, director of banking supervision, with over 20 examiners sitting in a hall with the company and the banks, asking them to resolve the issues. Because we admit that MTN is a systemically important telecom company in Nigeria. And after that meeting that we held on May 25, 2018, the discussions was inconclusive. We gave the company and the banks 1 week, which was meant to be end of May. It was not done. But also realizing the importance of this company so that we would not jolt the system, we gave extra almost 2 months for them to conclude providing relevant documentation to the examiners so they could knock those items out of their outstanding items. Unfortunately, this didn't happen, and we felt that we couldn't wait indefinitely. And that was the reason we released the investigation reports to the banks and the company. They have now responded. They have provided documents which I have sent down to the examiners to now begin to review. And I repeat, we'll go through the pain again to invite the banks and invite the company to prove their case, because it is just normal that we should allow these companies this company and the banks to clear themselves. That is what we're doing, and I believe in due course we should be releasing, we should make a final call on this subject. So, but again, it's important, somebody that talked about foreign investors. It's important for me to say that, and repeat at this meeting, that the sanctity of our CCIs remains sacrosanct. At the time, CCIs were being issued by Central Bank of Nigeria. But in order to provide a transparent system, we migrated the process to banks issuing the CCI. Today, we have migrated it into what is called electronic CCIs. So that tells you how transparent we are on this subject. And I repeat, the sanctity of CCIs remain sacrosanct. We will respect CCIs. But again, it's important that people should please, as much as possible, ensure that they do what is right, obeying the extant laws and foreign exchange regulations of our country. We would resolve this matter. I am very optimistic we'll resolve the matter, and I believe that everybody will be happy. MTN will be happy, the banks will be happy, CBN and government would be happy. Thank you.